The Number One Ladies Detective Agency, I started as a short story. I had been going over to Botswana. In 1980, I lived in Swaziland, and I went over to Botswana to stay with friends who lived in a little village called Machudi, north of Gaborone. And I remember there was an occasion when these friends, this friend of mine was a doctor who ran the local hospital there, and his wife. I went with his wife down into the village where somebody wanted to give them a chicken for lunch the following day. And I've got a very clear memory of going with my friend down into the village, and there was this woman, a large woman, a traditionally built woman, who was standing there in her yard wearing a red dress and walking about the yard blissfully unaware of what lay ahead of it was a chicken. And she started to chase this chicken, and there was a terrific kerfuffle, and feathers and dust and all sorts of things flew up. And eventually she fell upon the chicken. The odds were against the chicken. And she fell upon this chicken, and she wrung its neck and handed it to us. And I thought, what a remarkable woman. And I remember thinking, what's her story? What's the story of her life? And it would be interesting one of these days to write about a woman who lived in Botswana, and that woman, in a sense, inspired me to do that, although she wasn't Mara Motswe. It's not based on her. Many years passed. In 1981, I went to live in Botswana, and I got to know the country a bit better. And I realized that the point about Botswana is that it's a very good country. It's a country with an extraordinarily good history since its independence in 1966. And it is simply a good place. It's very well run. It's been consistently democratic since independence. There's very little corruption, and it's an admirable country, and they're remarkable people. And so the idea of writing about them, about the place and about the people, was always present in my mind, but it was not for many years before I actually sat down and started to write that short story about a woman called Precious Mara Motswe, and she's at the deathbed of her father, Obed Ramotswe, that great man, that great judge of cattle, a miner who'd saved all his money and done quite well. And he's lying there on his deathbed, and he says to her, "When I die, sell the cattle and start a little business." And he has in mind a sensible business such as a grocery store or a hardware store or something of that sort. And she says brightly, "I know, I'll start a detective agency." And he gasps and expires. And